everyone, it's Medina from the Clarinet Life, keeping it classically real for y'all. Hope everyone is doing all right. Welcome to the Clarinet Life, where we talk all things clarinet stuff, chamber music, and life as a New York City classical musician. If that's your jam, well, hit subscribe and join the family. All right, let's get started. So we are continuing with our Etude series. We are taking a closer look at the David Hite series. Specifically, it's the Melodious and Progressive Studies book. This is book 1. It's by Southern Music. The publishers are Southern Music. And so what's nice about this particular book is it has a number of etudes from different clarinetists and composers. And so we're going to take a look at some of these etudes, and the one that I want to check out is Baermann. Carl Baermann, he's a prolific clarinetist. If you have been starting your clarinet journey, you probably have heard either Carl Baermann or Heinrich Baermann, and essentially, I guess the Baermann duo, I like to call them, they were really important with the development of clarinet and technique and all those things. Carl Baermann wrote I think it's pretty well known, the Adagio for clarinet and strings. It's a movement within a full work. It's very beautiful. I've played it, an arrangement of it for clarinet and piano, but the original version is with clarinet and strings. But today, we're gonna take a look at his etudes. Now, you're probably thinking, well, wait a second, there's tons of exercises and etude books of Baermann, and there are. But there's, I want to go over a little bit of the differences. So let me see if I can turn to this page. Let's see. If you go on Melodious and Progressive Studies, page 57 is where it starts. Now, I'm going to take a look at I'm kind of skip around a little bit. We're going to take a look at number 4. This is the Andante con moto, A minor. Now, I want to go over really quickly the differences between this Baermann and this Baermann. So, here's the deal. This is the Carl Fischer edition, and this publisher, Carl Fischer, has a lot of books from like Langenus, Baermann, and this is edited by Langenus, another extremely famous clarinet player. And one of the things that you're probably going to notice when you get this book is there's different levels. So there's first division, second division. These etudes come from the second division of the Baermann, and it's Opus 63. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is how the books are organized. They're organized differently. The David Hite Melodious and Progressive Studies book is purely, in this case, it's purely etudes, and in the back, the close exercises. I think they're like thirds. But these etudes by Baermann are in the second division, and when you take a look at the Carl Fischer version, if this is the edition you have, and you're really interested in Baermann, you might not feel the need to purchase the David Hite Melodious and Progressive Studies Book 1. But if you notice the first page, it's not etudes, right? It's scales. And so the difference between these two is there's a lot of like little exercises. There's a finger exercises here, and then little exercises that are here. But one of the things I want to share with you is that if you look at the Melodious and Progressive Studies book for Baermann, etude number 1, which is on page 57, if you have this one version of the Baermann, it's on page 31, and it's not the same number. I do want to mention that. It's number 10, and in this edition I have page 31, okay? And so it looks a little bit different, and the numbering is different. So for example, if you have the Baermann book here, and you're trying to follow along, and I'm saying etude number 1 or etude number 5 or 7, whatever, when you look at it in your book here, it's not going to be the same. So just to let you know, Etude number 1, page 57 in the Melodious and Progressive Studies Book 1, that is on page 31, number 10. Okay, so I do want to give you a heads up on that. The one we're focusing on today, though, is number 4 on page 60 in the Melodious and Progressive Studies book, which, by the way, you can still look along with us even if you don't have this book and you have this one. It's number 14, okay? And it actually has a title. It's called Romance or Romans, and it has the same directive in terms of tempo, andante con moto. However, here's the difference, and this is why you need to know different editions, meaning the person that edits it and looks at all the details might have different things than the composer originally put. I'm looking at this Carl Fischer, and there is no written number of the tempo. It just says andante con moto, and it also gives me some directives. It's in German. I will not even try to attempt the German. It's way advanced. It says with tender feeling. That's the translation. That's not on here. So, you know, I'm going to show like a little quick, I'll try to show a little picture of the difference between the way the two look. In this, what's nice about the David Hite is, I'm going to just make up a word, legibility. It's very legible, so it's very spread out. You can see the notes really clearly. And what I also like is we have rehearsal numbers. Those are also measure numbers. Whereas with the Baermann, we don't see that on here. It's not there. So what we do have, though, are rehearsal letters. Like it says B and C, that sort of deal. Let's see. Anything else that's different? I'm going to take a look here. Oh, well, if you notice here, it says 8 bars of rest, and then we come in, whereas in the Melodious Studies book, we immediately have measure 1, as this has it as measure 9. So Baermann might have had this might be a version where there's piano involved in it, but the David Hite version doesn't have that. And I'm looking at it, and the dynamics are, the dynamic suggestions are different. Just taking a really quick look. Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure that I put a picture of this version, and then kind of give you a picture of this version and let you know, hey, it's not exactly the same. Personally, I like the way this looks. It's a little cleaner, the height, but I do like seeing what the composer originally put. But at the same time, remember, it was edited by Langenus, right? So again, we're always seeing the truth in its different forms, if that makes any sense. But I do want you to know that. So here's the thing. If you want to take a look at these etudes that I'm suggesting, and you have like a different book, a different edition, it's the same thing, but you might have to look through the pages and stuff like that. So let's see. I'm going to go over. I'm kind of looking at this here. I'm like, which one should I look at? I'm just going to look at the one that I had looked at before, which is this number 4, which is number 14 on the Carl Fischer. So in the David Hite Melodious Studies book, it is number 4. Now, our time signature, 3/8. Okay, this is a simple meter, meaning that the division is divided into 2 parts. Okay, in a simple meter, 3, the top number, that tells us how many beats, and the 8, that bottom number, tells us what gets the beat. That's different from some of the past etudes that I've reviewed in this book, which is compound meter, right? We know that compound meter, the beat is divisible by 3, but that's not what we have here. So number 4, we have 3/8, and the 8th note gets the beat, and David Hite gives us a suggestion of the tempo. It says 8th note gets 96. So that is what the 8th note gets. Dee, dee, da, dee, doo, da, da, dee. So the first thing that always comes up to me is this, when I see the beginning of this is the dot and the slur. That sort of deal. It's like, well, what is that? Do I slur it? Do I rearticulate? Well, here's the thing. You have to rearticulate because you have two of the same note, right? But it's supposed to be more gentle. So whenever you see a staccato on the top of a note with slur, make it gentle. Just got finished teaching. Actually, I still have another student, but I figured let's make this video. So our suggested tempo is mezzo piano. However, if you're looking at the Carl Fischer, it says piano. So it is a little bit different, but I am going to be referring to the dynamics from the Hite. Okay, so what's nice about the David Hite is he gives you a lot of suggestions as to where to breathe, that sort of deal. That comma informs us of where we could breathe, say could. I personally would rather breathe a little bit later because it doesn't break up the phrase. When do you breathe? At the end of a phrase. A phrase is a musical idea. It's kind of like a sentence, right? Hello, how are you today now? You know, so I like to think of it in those terms, and I feel like is a little incomplete. I need so I really want to breathe after that second system. And by the way, when I say systems, that's the lines in the music. So these lines here, that's one system, that's another system. So that second line, aka second system, I want to breathe after that, the downbeat of measure 9, okay? And that's in between that A and that C eighth note. I think in terms of phrasing, I really like what David Hite suggests in here. For me, I kind of want it to flow a little bit more. I feel like 96 is not a good or bad tempo. It's fine, but there are parts where I want to just kind of move a little bit more. So I'm looking at measure 20. I'm going to go 2 beats before that. So that's the espressivo. I'm really tempted to just kind of move it along a little bit. You know, just kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So one of the things that I notice about this particular etude is that third beat, that third eighth note, takes us to the next beat, takes us to the next downbeat. So I like to feel it a little bit more expansive. If the tempo is too slow, it's harder to do that. So, you know, I want to feel that forward motion. So I might have, if you watch in the beginning of the video, I played through the whole etude, and I might have been tempted to do that. I say I'm using my artistic license, but I really think it works though. Flow of this. Baermann is a fantastic melody writer. So is Nascentini, and I went over the Nascentini portion of the book in the previous video, but I really like just how Baermann writes these beautiful melodies. Now, one of the things that you've probably noticed is there's some grace notes. Now, grace notes, essentially, it's like the sprinkles in a cupcake. You know, it's not the most important note, but it kind of accentuates. It's decorative, essentially. And so I measure 33 and 34, you're going to see those grace notes. What I tell my students is, if there's a slash, that means it's before the beat. When there's no slash, that means it's on the beat. It also, I have to say also, it depends on how quickly we are moving, our pace. And so we do have slashes. So you have to make sure that the prominent note, the most important note, is that F natural, not the G. So let me start a little bit before that. So see how that flows? It kind of keeps going forward. Yeah, I'm trying to see like if there's any little spots that are tricky, but I feel like this etude number 4 is pretty straightforward. One thing I will say is when you see these accents are created with the breath. So, you know, the air, that support that you give, you know, your teacher probably said, support, yeah, blow through the instrument, right? And that, you have to remember an accent, it's kind of like, I just think of it as a mini crescendo, right? We have it's like, looks like this, and the beginning of the note is a little bit louder than the rest of the notes. Ah, right? So the air kind of comes a little bit more, has more faster speed, and then it kind of releases a little bit. That's how we, you know, vary our dynamics, is through our air. I say the breath is the life. Well, it especially is that with woodwind playing. So, and we do have accents that are used to accentuate those notes. And a lot of times it's in a strong beat. And you notice, I'm kind of gleaning through the music, it's normally in the beginning of the measure, right? It's on a downbeat. Downbeat, by the way, is the beginning of the measure. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so one thought that I do have is, in this particular etude, I do like to feel the macro, the larger parts of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And sometimes when you feel that, it's so tempting to play the 16th notes too fast. So make sure you remember, when we count these 8th notes, 1, 2, 3, those are the 8th notes. The 8th note gets the beat. When we see 16th notes, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and. So make sure you don't make the mistake of thinking of like a simple meter that you normally use more frequently, like 4/4, 3/4, or 2/4, and think, oh my goodness, the 16th note's super fast. You know, it's not. It's not. Remember, 8th note gets the beat. The 16th note is the subdivision of the 8th note. So. So I was playing a little bit before 55. So I think that's kind of like the big thing on this particular etude, is keep that pace. Make sure you feel the macro, the larger portions of the measure. Yeah, I think there's not too many little like tricky spots or anything like that. One thing I will say is I'm looking at measures 60, 62, 63. There's 16 notes: G sharp, F sharp, E, D, and then there's a B natural. For me, I personally like using the right hand pinky. I think it's just easier. And I probably did that in the performance also. So instead of using both pinkies, I just use one because it's just less work. The best fingering is the one that makes you sound the best. Let's see, I do that also in that next set of 16th notes on 65, 66, 67. I use that as well. Yeah, I think that's about it. This is such a cool etude. I think it's so musical, and I think it's one of those nice kind of standalone pieces. 54, 50, 53. How would I start there? Pick it at 53. everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me talk about the clarinet. And I hope if you have this book, I hope you have a chance to take a look at this etude. The Melodious study book I think is a great book if you're a clarinet teacher. I think it's an awesome book to have for your library and to introduce to your students. If you're someone who is working in clarinet and you're looking for some etudes to work on, I suggest this book. This book is good for, I would say, intermediate level playing. If you're just starting, I think this book might be a little bit too advanced. But if you're able to play your scales, you understand these time signatures like 3/8, that sort of deal, like compound meter also. You're gonna be fine with that. If you have the Carl Fischer version, it's a different book. It's a different book, but it does have the Baermann Etudes in it, right? In the second division. So, if you want to play along, you can use either book. But I definitely suggest you check out this Melodious Studies book because it's really cool, and I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody. You have an awesome day, and hit subscribe if you haven't. If this video was helpful, like it, thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.